some.
We're not going to
really got to process that. Yeah, me
I do
too.
want to talk to you about those bills when you get back.
I think we need to, yes, thank you.
Good morning. Senate will come to order. Devotional exercises this morning will be conducted by the Reverend Rick Swanson of St. John's in the Mountains Episcopal Church of Stowe.
I invite those who are able to please stand. Let us pray. O God, as the maple trees begin to run with the sweet sap of spring and the winter snows continue to fall, the seasons are at once in dissonance and in concert. You, O Holy One and ground of all being, give to this Senate the needed stability to sustain the transitions of this work for the good of the people of Vermont. Guide their conversations. May they listen and act in such ways to enable the ground beneath their feet to give way for the sweet syrup that of their work to flow throughout this land we call home. Amen.
Thank you. By way of announcement, we have determined whose cell phone was ringing yesterday. The investigation proceeds. That's all I'll say. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, we have Senate bill for introduction, S-121, introduced by Senator Hashim of Windham District. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-121, an act relating to prohibiting business entities from making contributions in state elections.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. That brings us to the orders of the day. We have for third reading S5. Third reading was ordered on March 2nd, 2023. Are there any amendments prior to third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S5, an act relating to affordably meeting the mandated greenhouse gas reductions for thermal sector through electrification, decarbonization, efficiency, and weatherization measures.
Now you've heard the third reading of the bill. The question is, shall the bill pass? Senator from Chittenden Southeast.
Mr. President, I have a question about the intent of the Appropriations Committee amendment yesterday, and I wonder if I might inquire of the reporter of that amendment.
The reporter of the amendment, the senator from Caledonia, will be interrogated.
Mr. President, is the intent of the Appropriations Committee amendment to require the legislature in 2025 to have to enact legislation before any of the contemplated rules in this bill take effect? And if the word enact in the amendment is intended to mean the affirmative action necessary will be subject to the same constitutional authorities governing the consideration for this bill S5.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment has language that says the Commission shall not file final proposed rules with the Secretary of State unless specific authorization is enacted by the General Assembly to do so. In another place, it talks about affirmative authorization enacted by the General Assembly authorizing the adoption of rules. So what enactment would require, it would need to be a bill that was passed by the subsequent legislature with the same constitutional requirements, meaning passed by both the House and the Senate, and to go to the governor. It would then be up to the governor to determine whether the bill should be signed, let it go into law without signature, or in fact be vetoed. So enactment would require a bill to be passed at that time in order for anything to move forward. And that is, in my mind, very important that we have that articulation of the program if it moves forward, because rulemaking then goes to LPAR, and I know from personal experiences in the past year, legislative intent and a clear articulation of legislative intent is very important for essential, not just important, but essential for the Rules Committee to make a determination that any proposed rule is consistent with legislative intent. So in summary, yes, enactment means a bill has to be passed and into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The senator from Washington, Senator Perchlik.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know there was a lot of discussion on the bill yesterday, but I feel like it's my duty to speak in support of this bill. And my first job in Vermont in 1995 was in low-income weatherization and fuel systems program. We went around into Vermonters' homes, trying to do air sealing, weatherization, and I also operated a corporate bank where we brought low-income Vermonters extra firewood so they could try to make it through the winter. And it was clear to me back then, and everyone else that was working on the program, that was trying to help these low-income Vermonters, that we needed to do more for these families. We needed a systematic program that was more than what we were doing. And so others and I have been working on this since 1995 to try to expand our weatherization programs, do something different for these families. And it's sad for me to report that we really don't have any different programs than we did 20 years ago. The senator from Essex gave comments about feeling the need to apologize to families that passes, where I felt something completely opposite. And I have been apologizing to low-income families for the past 27 years for the failure to pass something like this. I don't think that's going to make a meaningful difference to the ability to afford Vermonters to heat their homes. There were also comments made yesterday that our voters want us to vote no on this bill. The senator from Orleans made comments to that effect. Now, I made it very clear to voters of the Washington district that my top priority has been building a clean energy economy. To do something about that. I would not be keeping my campaign promise if I was to vote against it. Yes, I did get a few dozen no's saying to vote no, and maybe 100 emails, not all from my district to vote no. But I also got 16,000 votes. I can't tell those 16,000 voters that I'm going to go against my campaign promise because 150 people told me to vote. We had an election 4 months ago, and the voters in my district, I totally understand that different districts have different voters, and that's what makes our democracy great. So I'm not saying this is pertaining to other senators, this is just my district. But our district had a choice between 3 candidates that said climate change was a top issue, and 3 candidates that said it was not a top issue, and even criticized some of the work that we've done with it. And the voters chose those 3 candidates that said climate change was a top issue. 2 of them had voted for the clean standard prior year. So those are my personal comments, but I also want us to remind us how we got here. Why are we considering a clean heat standard? And I think it's important because I've heard from some constituents in some of the hallway conversations in the building that this clean heat standard was a scheme cooked up by your Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. Now, the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee is a sharp bunch of senators, but they didn't come up with this idea. Let me take you back a few years to how we got here today. In 2006, that's when the General Assembly passed the first statutory language putting broad greenhouse gas emission reductions in place. That's when we said, like, we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We put those goals in the statute. We had passed other laws and programs to promote electric efficiency and renewable electricity, but that was the first time that we established economy-wide reduction goals. Just to mention here the comments made by Senator Franklin about Efficiency Vermont not being helpful for anyone who's trying to get a new furnace. That is specifically by design. That's the way we designed Efficiency Vermont. we have specifically told efficiency Vermont, you can't use your ratepayer collected money that's for electricity efficiency to help folks with their purposes. They do have a little bit of money that they don't get from ratepayers, so they do a little bit of work. They do provide some incentives, and it's good work for renewable heating, and they do, for example, have a list of contractors which the senator used. But the fact that people are calling Efficiency Vermont and saying, help me with my heating, but we can't, is specifically the problem and specifically the issue that we're trying to address with S5. So it's a perfect illustration why we need to pass S5, and I thank Senator Franco for bringing it up. So back to the timeline, in 2007, we asked ANR to start tracking our emissions and reporting back to us on if we were meeting those goals we had set. And those reports kept coming back saying we're not making progress towards our emission goals. 2008, Governor Douglas established the Governor's Commission on Climate Change, had recommendations pretty much ignored. In 2015, we did pass the Renewable Energy Standard. So this is the first time that we adopted a performance standard. This is in 15, they took effect in 17, but it was only for the electric utilities. It only dealt with the electric portion of our energy situation, other than a little bit in the tier 3 that has a thermal component, but that's now being used to do things like support electric vehicles. 2017, in an effort to do something to meet our climate goals, Governor Scott created a Climate Action Commission. It issued recommendations, also recommendations that were basically patently ignored by the General Assembly. In 2019, the House tried to do something. They said, okay, we are going to raise the fuel tax. We have a 2-cent per gallon tax on heating fuels to help low-income Vermonters weatherize their homes. The House said we're going to raise that another 2 cents to help weatherize about 400 homes a year. Governor opposed it. A lot of other folks opposed it, said it was regressive. The fuel dealers did not support it. And in the end, the House was they were able to pass it, but only with 81 votes, and the Senate refused to take it up. So 2020, 13 years after passing the emission reduction goals, folks like me, and I think a lot of Vermonters that wanted to see some progress were getting frustrated. So we passed a law that made the goals requirements. We said, well, maybe the problem is that they were goals, not requirements. And we also created the Climate Council, made up from representatives of both the administration and the legislative appointed members, and said, you guys go figure it out. Go figure out what the best way Vermont can reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. How can we make this transition away from fossil fuels? And they spent a lot of time creating a climate action plan. And that climate action plan came out in 2021. And their number one recommendation, their number one strategy for reducing emissions, given all the factors, cost, impact, effectiveness, public input, was to implement a clean heat standard. 4 members of the current governor's administration on the Climate Council voted for that. In 2022, the Comprehensive Energy Plan was drafted. It's drafted every 6 years by the governor's administration, and it recommends that the state consider a clean heat standard. And in 2022, the General Assembly took these recommendations from the climate plan and from the Comprehensive Energy Plan and evidence from other states, and we passed the clean heat standard. So you can see this is not a new idea. It's a long time coming. It's well thought out. If you take the time to look at why the Climate Action Plan, the Comprehensive Energy Plan, or others have recommended a performance-based standard, and that's what S5 puts into, gets us a design for a performance-based standard, you can see clearly why it's the best choice going forward. If people like to say that there are other options, but this is the best choice. Other options have been tried, for the last 27 years we haven't gotten anywhere. And just I want to remind folks that there are other states and the national government that uses performance standards successfully. I already mentioned our renewable energy standard, which has been in place for 2017, has been a successful path to performance standard. 36 other states have renewable portfolio standards, and they're working well. And that's up from 31 just in 2021. So more states are adopting standards for their electric portfolios because performance standards work. Colorado uses a performance standard for their pipeline gas. California, Oregon, and Washington have a clean fuel standard for transportation fuel. And I think one of the most famous standards that senators will be aware of is the federal government's CAFE standards, corporate average fuel economy standards. This sets a standard, and then it has the industry figure out what is the best way to meet that standard. A tax, there's only one way to comply with a tax, you have to pay. But a standard that allows the businesses that are obligated to find the most efficient way to meet that standard. They are market-based. They reward business innovation. They use the efficiencies of free market-based capitalism to enact the change that we foresee. We want to have fuel dealers involved. If you do a tax, they're not involved. You're getting the state or government bureaucracy involved to try to figure it out. But with a performance standard, those that are in the industry, those that know best, those that have the best relationship with their customers are those that figure out how to meet the standard. This is a program that we've needed for the past 28 years. My only regret is that it took us this long to get there. And I'm looking forward to voting again yes today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those nay?
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it.
Division.
Actually, the vote was concluded, I believe. I see. Division has been requested. In that case, all those in favor, please stand. And those on screen, please raise your hands so that we can, there we go. And please remain standing while the count is taken. Thank you. All those voting nay, please stand. Be seated, please. Please listen to the results of your vote. Those voting aye, 18. Those voting nay, 10. And you have passed the bill. We have on the calendar for third reading S9. Third reading was ordered on March 2nd, 2023. Are there any amendments before third reading? Seeing none, please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S9, an act relating to the authority of the state auditor to examine the books and records of state contractors.
Having heard the third reading of the bill, the question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And you have passed S9. We have two Senate resolutions to take up at this time. The first is SR 8, and it is offered by Senator Baruth and the 4 other members of the Rules Committee. Listen to the reading of the resolution by title only, please.
SR8, Senate Resolution relating to concurrently conducted electronic committee meetings.
The resolution has been read and is set forth in yesterday's journal. By way of explanation, the two resolutions that you see in front of you are designed to extend our temporary rules allowing, in the case of S8, the concurrent committee meetings that we use Zoom to fill out. And S9 is designed to allow the same under the new rules for the Senate floor. And these are extended into January of, I believe it's 2025. January 5th, 2024. So we will take SR8 first. The question is, shall the Senate adopt this Senate resolution? If you're ready for the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And you have adopted Senate Resolution 8. Next, we turn to Senate Resolution 9, which was offered by Senator Baruth and the four other members of the Rules Committee. Please listen to the reading of the resolution by title only.
SR 9, Senate Resolution relating to electronic participation in Senate sessions.
This resolution has now been read and is set forth in yesterday's journal, which is before you. The question is, shall the Senate adopt Senate Resolution 9? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And you have adopted Senate Resolution 9. That completes the orders of the day. I would look to the senator from Grand Isle for a motion.
Mr. President, subject to any announcements, I move the Senate adjourn until 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, March 14th. Thank you.
Senator from Grand Isle has moved, pending announcements, that we adjourn until 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, March 14th. By way of announcement, I just want to remind, is there a hand? Senator from Caledonia.
I was going to announce timing of Senate appropriations this afternoon, 1:30.
Thank you, Senator. The chair will offer by way of announcement, over the town meeting break, there will be folks in the chamber, potentially near your desks. So if you have, before the break, papers on your desk or other objects that you're concerned about, please put them inside your desks so that there's no chance of them being misplaced or otherwise purloined. Any further announcements? Senator from Chittenden Southeast.
Mr. President, Senate Economic Development will meet again 15 minutes after the fall of the gavel, or as fast as people can get their lunch, to vote out a bill and a resolution.
Senator from Bennington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Education will meet at 1 o'clock.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Finance will meet at 1:30.
The Senator from Madison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate GovOps will meet at 1 o'clock.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the senator from Grand Isle has moved that the Senate stand in adjournment until 9:30 a.m. Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
The ayes clearly have it, and we are breaking for the town meeting recess. Senate is adjourned.